I once heard someone say that there are basically two ways to have more money in life. One is to spend less, and the other one, of course, is to make more. I think there's actually a third way, and this is probably the way that's going to help you the most. Let's explore. I've made a lot of financial decisions, over the course of my life. We make financial decisions every single day. The problem is most of us make pretty lousy financial decisions if we really ask ourselves. We're not that great with money. Over the years, I've tried to learn how to be better with money, and that's helped me really get control of my finances and just do better. How have I done that? How have I had more money at the end of the day? Well, making better financial decisions. Now, we're not going to talk about the bad ones today because I've made plenty of those, and that's going to be a whole nother video, I'm sure, which you're going to see as long as you remember to like and subscribe. Then you can keep up with what we're doing here. So today we're going to talk about 10 of the best financial decisions that I have made, and maybe how they've worked for me, and they might even be able to work for you if you employ them. So the first one is buying a house or a property. A lot of people, they go their whole lives and they just pay rent, but they don't realize the opportunity they are missing. When you buy a property, particularly a house to live in, it affords you an investment opportunity because it's like a big savings account. You have to come up with a deposit, you have to put money into the home, but I've done this again and again. Today I own many properties, and some of them are producing me income, so it's worked out in that way too. But definitely the day I decided to become a homeowner, as daunting and scary as it was, as much as I needed to use pretty much every penny I had for the deposit and the down payment, I didn't know anything about property ownership at that time. I was kind of scared to buy my first property, but I did it. I kind of sort of jumped in. First, I bought a piece of land, and then the second thing I bought was a home to live in. And, now I've done this many times over, and today I own several properties, some that are, paying me regularly. But buying a house or a property as an investment was a great idea, and it really helped me kind of start on my path to building wealth. The second thing was starting a business. I'm a business owner. I've kind of always been a business owner. Even when I was a kid, I was an entrepreneur, and I started little businesses, and I would sell bike parts and repair bikes. And then I went into doing construction projects for friends and their families, and eventually started my own construction business after working with my dad for many, many years. Today, I still own a construction business as well as several other businesses. But starting my own business really allowed me to be an entrepreneur, control my own schedule, control my income. And there's lots of tax advantages when you own a business. You can literally save more money and actually keep more money working for you. You can put more money to work for you when you're a business owner. That kind of leads us to the third best financial decision, and that is using compound interest. When you finally make some money, you want to put that money to work for you, and the simplest way is actually just employing compound interest. Sure, you can invest in all kinds of schemes and all kinds of things, and there's the stock market, and there's property, and there's other investments, but using compound interest is one of the simplest things that, believe it or not, anybody can do. You can literally open up a high yield savings account. You can put money into a CD. You can put money into an annuity. There are different types of investment structures that you can do, like the S&P 500. There's plenty of financial planners you can talk to that will get you a guaranteed return. And compound interest is like, the ninth wonder of the world, right? It is literally, you just put your money somewhere, you're sort of parking it, and it is going to work for you, and it's doing what I call making money while I sleep. Everyone should be employing this, even if it's just in a high yield savings account. Maybe you don't have a ton of money to throw in, but it really is an excellent financial decision to save some money and put it somewhere where it's earning you a little bit of interest, utilizing compound interest. Money making money on money. I love it. And the next thing I did was not loan money to friends. That is a pretty good financial decision. Hands up, I am guilty, because in the early days, I used to loan money to friends and family, right? Someone would need some money, whether it was a cousin or a good friend or your best buddy, and they would come to you and be like, oh yeah, Daniel's got a few bucks, I'll borrow it from him. It is pretty much the quickest way to make things uncomfortable around the family dinner table when you loan money to family, and the surest way to lose a friend, right? Because then they feel guilty when they can't make the payment or pay you back at all. all, or they're struggling. Here's the reality. They were in a position where they needed the money, so they were struggling to begin with. You were in a position where you had it to help. So if you can do it out of the kindness of your heart to just help people, then do it for that. But when you make it a loan and they actually have to pay you back, then it becomes a little bit of a difficult thing, and it kind of just becomes sketchy because most people are not good with money, and they're certainly not good at paying money back, especially when it's a good friend or a family member. They're sort of going to let that slide, and you will be last on your list, and then you sort of start to resent them in the relationship, and it's just not good. So I learned the hard way, and I love my friends, love my family, but I no longer do loans to friends and family. The fifth thing that I did, which was probably the best financial decisions out of all the decisions I've made, is investing in myself. When I was younger, in my late teens, going right into my 20s, I went to a lot of seminars. I just learned that, hey, this great speaker was going to be in town and he was talking about banking and finance, or there was a real estate course that was coming up that someone was going to teach, or there was an author coming to town who had written a book who was given a talk. So what I would do is I would attend all kinds of events and all kinds of seminars, and this ended up being probably the best investment I ever made because it was an investment in myself. So I've learned a lot of things. I've learned about a lot of subjects. And in studying those subjects, I sort of am able to see the world through a different lens and now understand how different aspects of life and business and humans interact with each other and how they really work day to day. So that investment has been one that has paid me back 100 times, 100-fold. Whatever I've spent to go to a seminar and learn about a topic has been well worth the money. So investing in yourself is always one of the best financial decisions you can make. Always be learning. That's investing in yourself. The next thing I did was budgeting. I made a decision to budget. Now, once again, this is something I did later on. You know, when I was in my teens and 20s and even in my early 30s, even though I was making money, I wasn't always budgeting. I thought I was budgeting. I mean, I really did. I thought, hey, I have a budget and I'm going to stick to it and I'm not going to spend too much money. But my budget was very vague. It was, I make X amount a week and try not to spend more than that, right? Spend less than you make. It wasn't really a well-written out budget. It was more of an idea in my head budget. But once I decided to actually budget and write it down and put it on paper and then stick to it, meaning X amount's going to pay these bills, X amount is for savings, X amount is for emergency fund, X amount is for long-term investing. And I actually had buckets. I actually had categories. I don't care how you do it. You can have an envelope system, you can use your banking, you can use apps, but budgeting is one of the best things that you can actually do to make a good financial decision because you're going to be looking at it all the time. The seventh thing I did that was an outstanding decision was to buy gold and silver. And this was something that I did very early. Unknowingly, I was just always buying gold and silver coins, right? Not really jewelry, but, bullion that I could buy and sell and trade. The reason I kind of got started was I had family members who were in the business. My mother actually bought jewelry and sold jewelry, and I had two uncles who were in the business of cutting diamonds, selling diamonds, and making gold jewelry. So literally through them, I had access to getting some really good stuff and some coins. And I learned about gold too. I learned about the value of gold, the value of silver, and I started watching the market a little bit and the ups and downs in the economy, and watching that when certain things happened in the economy, gold or silver might stay very strong. Like it kind of just leveled out. It was a hedge against inflation, I thought. So that was an excellent decision on the term of my financial decisions to buy gold and silver. Another thing I did, and this is something I learned later on, was having a peace of mind account. I call it my POM. And some people might call that an emergency fund, right? I never really had an emergency fund when I was in my teens, and in my 20s, I thought about it. Like we always think, oh, the shite really hits the fan and your car breaks down and something, late payment on an insurance or whatever. You're like, I wish I had extra money. Well, that's what an emergency fund is. Today, I call it my peace of mind account. It's where I put money to give me peace of mind so that I can literally sleep at night and feel good about everything else I'm doing in the world. I know things are going to happen. I know my pool pump is going to go and a car is is going to break down, and maybe a storm is going to cause a roof tile to come loose and there's going to be a leak in my roof. Now I literally have to go somewhere to get money that was unaccounted for, that I didn't plan. Well, that's what the peace of mind account is. It is literally having some money somewhere just in case there's an emergency and something happens. And the great thing is, this doesn't happen all the time. So the money really just builds up. It just safely builds up, earns me a good amount of interest, and it literally gives me what? Peace of mind, just in case there was an emergency. So an emergency fund is always a great financial decision. Another great financial decision, and I'm going to wrap this up with two more things. The first thing is diversifying my investments. We've had several ups and downs in the economy. I mean, 2008 was very, tumultuous, and a lot of people lost their shirts in the housing market. Wall Street has had several crashes. The stock market has been absolutely crazy over the past 20 years with huge rises, but then huge falls, with some companies just completely going under. And we won't even talk about what happened during COVID. A lot of people lost their shirts then too. I come from a background where I've always kind of diversified myself. I've held real estate. I've held gold and silver. I buy lots of different assets. Retail business of buying, selling, and creating musical instruments. I'm also in the vintage instrument market. I'm very diversified. So I've noticed, just from my point of view, that when housing is going in one direction, well, gold and silver might be going in another. I've noticed that when people are coming in and buying very expensive musical instruments, it's because the economy is good and most things are on a rise, but not everything is on a rise. And I can also see when the musical instrument market tanks, what's happening in real estate and what's happening in gold and silver. So the economy has several different factors that will rise and fall. And if you are fully embedded in, say, real estate, well, what do you do when the real estate market tanks? If all of your money is in the stock market and stocks are going down and hurting, then where are you getting your income from if you are relying on that, right? Same thing. You may be in an industry where your job is in a certain industry that's very volatile and can be affected by the market. So people who say buy and sell real estate and that's all that they do, now all of a sudden they're not selling any homes. Well, if they had their monies diversified and maybe they were buying some gold and silver, or maybe they were invested in another aspect of society, then they would say, okay, it's going to balance out. Being diversified can literally save you when markets fall or markets rise. So you want to be diversified. And that was something I learned, more in the past 20 years to really diversify. I think I was naturally diversified just because of the businesses I'm in. I'm an entrepreneur, so I have everything from construction businesses going to real estate deals to buying and selling of vintage instruments. So, I'm in enough different markets where I can see what's going on, but I also see that they've all risen and they've all tanked at one point or another in the past 40 years. So I try and stay as diversified as I can, meaning don't have all your eggs in one basket. Finally, best thing you can do if you're gonna start to make good financial decisions is number 10 here, and that is regularly review your finances. Another thing that I didn't always do, to tell you the truth, it was because it just sucked to look at them, right? Like, who wants to review their finances? You're making money, you're spending money, you don't have a lot of money. So most people, they just kind of have the ostrich effect where they bury their head in the sand and they hope everything's pretty good when they finally look up, right? They take a little bit of money, maybe put a little away in savings, but the second something happens, they go and grab it. When you really start to regularly review your finances, and I mean every week or maybe twice a month or maybe once every other month, but you sit down, you look at your expenses, you look at your income, you look at what's coming in and what's really going out, then you can actually know what's a real asset and what is a real liability. You can also see where your spending lies. You can say, maybe we're spending too much eating out. Maybe I'm spending too much on fuel because I take a lot of drives and grab a cup of coffee and listen to the radio. Whatever it is you're doing, doing. But now you can review that. You can see if your food shopping has been too much. Maybe you're just buying a coffee every single day on the way to work that you could easily make at home and save a couple bucks. But when you regularly review your finances, you now know where your money's going. It's always amazing to me, the people that come into my office and they sit down and I say, well, how much money do you make? And they really don't know. They say, oh, well, it varies every week. I own my own business, or I have some deductions, or I have this coming out sometimes. They really don't know. They have a vague idea. Oh, I make 50 grand a year, but they can't tell me exactly what they take in every week. That's amazing to me. How do you not know that? But they're out there spending money. So how do you know what you can spend if you don't know exactly what you're taking in? Well, that's easy to answer. They don't know what they spend either because they aren't regularly reviewing their finances. When we do that, then they see all these little holes where they not only can save money, but they actually know what's really coming in. So they feel better. That gives them a sense of peace of mind and security. Here's the deal. At the end of the day, money is exactly like fire. It is good to have when you need it, but if you don't keep it under control, everything you have could eventually go up in smoke. My name is Daniel F. Margasa. You are watching the Almost Criminal Millionaire channel, and if you enjoy learning about money and the health and wealth of your bank account, then please like and subscribe for more.